Yeah, so pre-production on my film began in like early June. I wrote my script first, which it did get edited a little bit at the edit stage. For the first time in my film fest career, I storyboarded. Woo! Honestly, I feel like my storyboard and the end product actually do quite line up a little bit. The reason I did it mainly was because, I was gonna have to be building a lot of this shit, so I wanted to have sort of a rough idea of the things I was gonna have to make. So after all of that was squared away, I I began building my characters, and I think in total the process of building my clay figures took maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks ish. I wanted them to be a little bit more robust than clay figures I had used in the past, which, I was 9 years old, 11 years old. They were just made of clay. Like, they were just little blobs of clay. So I started to do a little research. If you're unfamiliar, armatures are skeletons, essentially. And I did a little research on what other people suggested. So I used 16 gauge aluminum wire to build these guys. Wrapped it around twice to give it a little bit more, what's the word? Chutzpah? I don't know. I discovered this thing which is called metal epoxy putty. I don't know if anybody is familiar with metal epoxy putty, but it is a putty that comes in two parts. That when you mix them together, it causes a chemical reaction that you can work with it kind of like clay. But then after 5 minutes or so, it hardens. And I use that metal putty to connect the limbs to the torso as well as create a head. Um, and, I made a little chest piece. I made a little pelvis for everybody, feet. Basically, the points of articulation that I wanted to be able to manipulate. Also, I probably should have used better ventilation or like did it outside or something because this stuff smells really weird when you mix it up. I feel like they turned out pretty good. I was pretty proud when these armatures were done. Then we got our clay men. We got our little clay figures. So okay, so this is a picture I sent to my cousins of my new figure next to our old figure. The exact same one we used in 2007, 20 years ago. Holy shit. And then also, people were commenting during the film fest on my film about how it was cool that I still had the figures, and it was cool that I still had the films. And here's a real true behind the scenes thing about me having those films. I didn't. I did not fucking have them. And the reason for that is because I had them on the family PC. They're long gone to time. But for my cousins, it was important to me that they would be able to revisit these things because it was a big, like, my cousins would come over for Christmas and we'd spend the whole time in the fucking other room making clay movies. Like, it was a big deal to everybody. At least in my opinion, it was at the time. So it was important to me to share with them physical copies of the clay films. We watched one of them at Thanksgiving a year or two ago. So I knew my cousin Jack had them somewhere, but my aunt, shout out Aunt Cheryl, she drove these over to my parents, and then I saw my parents like the following weekend, and my mom brought them to me. Take a little look. I made some rudimentary little cover for Clay Karate 2. Like, one of my coolest moments in making this particular film fest video, I went to put these on my computer, and Clay Kwon-Do 3 was in here. I opened this, and I went to take it And what do you know? There was a second one in there. And in that moment, I was like, yes! Oh, it was like 33% more claymations. A lot of claymation artists will use what is called plastilina clay. It's a type of clay that is, it doesn't dry out nearly as quickly as some other clays. I repeatedly had the thought to myself many, many times, this is a lot harder when you're not like 11 and you don't give a fuck about how it looks, you know? The set building. So I built pretty much everything out of foam board. We've got just a little basic table, a plain white folding table. That's what we always used growing up. I always had a little folding table. I made this little chair, which actually, the very first time I went to shoot something with this chair, the legs splayed out and broke. So, and then we got the desk, a little computer desk. Everything built out of foam board, and then painted. I built any screens with a little piece of my green screen that I actually cut out of my green screen, so that I could do stuff in post with it. We have when I started shooting. So this is what it looked like. I had it set up in a corner. We got our foam board here. This whole process was grueling. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. There was many times that I was really like, fuck this shit, this isn't worth it, this sucks, this is not gonna be good, I don't give a fuck. July 11th, 2 weeks prior to the film festival, I started shooting. It was really hot, and I was hunching over in a table in the corner and sweating my ass off and having temper tantrums constantly. I'm not gonna lie, I was being kind of a fucking baby. So I ran into some issues with my characters not being able to, like, stand. Specifically my dad's figure. Having him have to carry this tripod was pretty rough for a while. The feet, I needed to make the epoxy putty flatter so that they would actually be able to have sort of a platform of their own to stand on. The breakthrough segment, I think I did a pretty good job of doing exactly what I storyboarded for this. I had a very specific vision for the breakthrough part specifically. And it was kind of a gamble for me because it was something I wasn't sure I was going to be able to pull off. Shooting both the clay spread and the eyes opening onto a green screen. I was taking a risk on this because, like, I was like, I have a really specific idea for this. I think I can get it to work. And it worked. But yeah, I did separate shots of those and then layered them. I reached out to Enemy Mouse. And I gave Enemy Mouse kind of a very vague little task. I was like, I kind of want like a little musical swell, you know? I don't have to be, I was like, maybe like a minute or so. And I gave some inspo for it. And Enemy Mouse got me that shit in like a couple days and knocked it out of the park. And it was exactly what I was looking for. When I got that sequence together in post-production, I actually cried a little bit. I cried a little bit because the vision came together. That's exactly what I intended to shoot. And it came together, and I put the Enemy Mouse music under it, and I cried a little bit because it really washed over me. I think this is the most visually stunning thing that I've ever made. Like, and I actually do believe that. I think that breakthrough shot is the coolest thing that I've ever made. I mean, Enemy Mouse does a little juicing with it. You know, you get those cool Enemy Mouse synths behind it, and it's gonna be incredible. But, and yeah, okay, so this was the clay spread part where I was shooting it straight down onto the table. Started with a little lump, and then I spread it out a little bit, and then I kept adding little bits more and more, and I had to, between each shot, I had to kind of smooth it down so it didn't just look like chunks of clay were just appearing, so it looked more like it was growing, kind of. And that whole sequence probably took about an hour and a half or 2 hours to animate even. I could see it in my brain, and there it is. Well, really, this is the birth of Vitamin Pug, whatever that means to you, you know? This was Vitamin Pug being born into the world. It was either for a birthday or a Christmas at some point. Let me pull this up here. I received this as a gift from my Aunt Cheryl, actually. The one who drove the clay films over to my parents' house for my claymation supplies. This box has largely remained in storage for a very long time, but it's moved with me over the years. Like, I've had it for years and years and years. I actually ended up, like, revamping it, because now I have all these other new claymation supplies, so and it felt special. It felt good to, like, give this thing some TLC and, like, really reorganize and replenish. Actually, I have a good line in here. I have a good line in my little behind-the-scenes writer thing. Cleaned it all up. Now it has been replenished with even more clay, even more tools, even more memories. And after that I wrote, "Groan, knock it off, Puggy." Okay, here's the stuff. I actually did write down exactly what I bought for this, which is folding table, few pounds of clay, 6 foam boards, hot glue sticks, metal epoxy putty, aluminum wire cutters, sculpting tools, an external CD drive, Gorilla Tape, and then I also bought some other stuff that I didn't really use. Film Fest forever.